You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Welcome back to the Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about Jiu Jitsu. I'm your host, Lamar Smith, and today's guest is a white belt who trains at Rising Tide Academy, located in Franksburg, Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe MacCready.
How's it going, Lamar? Appreciate you having me on.
How's it going, my brother?
Doing fantastic, man. Had a great day. Started out with 7 a.m. class.
Oof, I miss morning classes, man. But I did go to the gym today, got a good workout in, so it's something.
Nice.
All right, man. Well, first and foremost, man, I'd like to, extend my thanks one more time for coming on the show, man. I greatly appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, man. Without further ado, if you want to formally introduce yourself again, by all means, and let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
All right. Yeah. So Joe MacCready, 35 years old, just turned. Feels like a monumental spot to get in life. But married, 2 kids. Been doing jiu-jitsu now for 9 months and just loving it, man. It's honestly been life-changing for me. So I'm having a blast. I train, I don't know, anywhere between about 2 and 5 times a week. I'd like to be able to do more, but my work schedule, that's what I can get out of it. So we're rocking with what we can get, and yeah, man, loving it so far.
Oh yeah, man. That's awesome to hear, man. So how did you find jiu-jitsu, or how did jiu-jitsu find you?
So it's a long and kind of unique story, honestly. So I'm gonna take you back to the beginning. I'm a fat teenager. I'm 16, 17, 18. I'm being, made fun of. My nickname was Fat Joe. So I had no knowledge of, fitness or nutrition. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing or not doing, but I was doing all the wrong stuff. I'm double fisting cheeseburgers, and it's not a good picture. So I finally decided, man, you gotta get your shit together. And so I just started at first. I just started running, and then I started eliminating food I knew I didn't need. I didn't know about macros or calories, or I didn't know any of that. Mm-hmm. But I just, instead of ordering a bacon double cheeseburger with a side of cheese fries, I'd start going for, just a hamburger. And, I knew I'm eliminating some calories here, and that worked. I went from probably about 220 just sloppy pounds down to about 170.
Nice.
But it was good, man. And it was like, I saw this. It was a pretty short period of time, honestly. I buckled down and did it. And that kind of set the hook in my mouth for, putting in work and getting that benefit out of the back end. You know what I mean? That
mm-hmm.
the reward of putting in effort. So I was kind of hooked there. And then I was kind of skinny fat, and I didn't feel strong. I didn't feel, I felt better than when I was fat, but now I was still not really in shape, even though I had, lost fat.
Mm-hmm.
So around that time, I kind of became more aware of MMA.
Mm-hmm.
UFC was gaining popularity in the mainstream. So I got this like 1-inch thick MMA workout book. A few guys have told me they got the same book, and I just, started reading it and trying to figure out different exercises to do. And then I watched the movie. I don't know if you watched this, but Never Back Down.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So I watched Never Back Down. I'm like, oh, this is cool, man. So I wanted to do MMA or jiu-jitsu or some sort of combat sport. I wanted to do it in the worst way, but I had some limitations, which I'll get into in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, I went out and I bought a thick rope, and I hung it from a tree in my backyard, and got a tire to flip and to hit with a sledgehammer, and started, climbing ropes and, all the stuff I saw in like Never Back Down. And it sounds cheesy, but, I'm a teenager and I'm like, this looks cool and I want to be like that. So that's what I started doing, man. So growing up, this is where I guess my story is a little unique. Is so growing up, my wife and I, we were born and raised in a Christian cult, and I know this has nothing to do with Jiu Jitsu, but there's relevance that this context kind of will explain some stuff for. So. Mm-hmm. But grew up in this really obscure Christian cult. There's only a handful of 1,000 members in the whole United States. So I'm positive you haven't met or heard of these people before. And growing up in this environment, it seemed normal to you because it's all you knew. But now that I'm out of it, and you can look at it objectively, it's pretty bizarre. But there was some stuff that wasn't so crazy, and then there's other stuff that was. We would go to church every day. Really couldn't have hobbies. So like growing up, I was never allowed to do team sports. I was never, allowed to do individual sports. Sure, we'd play like pickup sports with our church friends and stuff, but nothing ever organized. We weren't allowed to do that. Couldn't go on vacations, couldn't go to restaurants, didn't have TV, radio, couldn't go to college, couldn't date, couldn't, honestly, we were pretty much like Amish with cars. So, it's really what it was like, man. So, for a kid that wants to do contact or combat sports, and have that not be something that's on the menu, that it sucked. And that's just one of a million things that as a kid, you want to do that I wasn't allowed to do. There was just all the normal stuff that you can think of as a kid, down to, hanging out with school friends. That was an experience I had. So I finally convinced my dad that it would be okay if he was a boxing fan. We didn't have a TV, so we couldn't ever like watch boxing together, which kind of bums me out that, we missed out on that sort of stuff. That would be a normal, father-son thing to do. Yeah. But, I knew he was a boxing fan, so I knew this was, I could kind of work that angle a little bit. And I explained jiu-jitsu to him, and I had found this gym near where I worked, and there was like one class a week that I could make work. It was a gi class, and the gym was, it was out of a place called Sports Extreme, and the professor there, his name is Alexander Quintella. So shout out to Quintella Control Tactics in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Alexander's a great guy, Brazilian. So he was back then. This is 2010 when I was 21. I started going there, and I think he was pretty new to the country at that point. So his Portuguese was real hard to understand when he was telling us what to do. But yeah, man. So there was like one class a week I could make. And I would rush there from work, like changing in the car, and I would get there right as class was about to start. And I was only able to do it for, I'm trying to remember, it's 4 to 6 months probably. Mm-hmm. And in the group I grew up in, kind of your life path for a male was you were going to get out of high school, you were going to start working for a company owned by one of the church members. And you're going to, in your early 20s, you're probably going to get married to someone that it's not arranged marriage, but you don't get to date like would be normal. So that's an interesting thing as well. But So yeah, you get married in your early 20s, and by then you're expected to just be focused on your career, the church, being involved, and that's it. Like, it's bad enough to have a hobby as a teenager, but once you're married, like, you're supposed to be done with that stuff.
That's crazy.
It is. I was always on the more rebellious side, though. So, but I had to quit doing jiu-jitsu because I couldn't afford it. I bought my first house at 21 because I was dating my now wife, and yeah, the path was buy a house. So I bought a house that needed a bunch of work, and finances weren't there. So only got, about 4 to 6 months of jiu-jitsu in, but I knew doing it then, you like this works.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, it was tough. It was tough to give up, but I hadn't really done it long enough that I had major investment into it. So kind of just accepted that I'm not going to be doing jiu-jitsu. I think it's cool, but it's out of reach. So, yeah, moved on from running and, my never back down-esque workouts to kind of transitioned into lifting. My back started giving me problems from running, so I started lifting, and that kind of became my therapy. I didn't really have any outlets. You weren't allowed to have them, and even me going to the gym, that was kind of taboo. You weren't supposed to do that. People knew I did. People knew I did. But like, the thing they don't want you to do, they don't want you making friendships. You know what I mean? I go to the gym, I see you there, we start talking, and then you're like, hey man, let's go hang out, Friday night. And, at first maybe I say, no, I can't do that. And then after, we keep talking, and then me and you hang out, and I'm not supposed to. And then, you start telling me, hey man, this group you're part of is crazy, and I leave. Right. So that's the influence they don't want us having.
Right.
So you're not allowed to have any social networks outside of the church. So yeah, I would go to the gym. It was frowned upon, but I was pretty hard nosed about it. Just, I'm doing this. So I lifted pretty much every day for 12, 14 years. I don't even know exactly what the time frame was, but it was something that I knew I needed to keep my sanity, man. Like, anytime,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not working out, check in on me, because
Yeah.
I'm not doing good. When I'm working out, my life's clicking along. But so yeah, I lifted at the gym. I did forge some friendships in the gym, and it made me understand that it gave me, a little bit of light cracked through, which is what they don't want to have happen. And, it did. You start seeing things for what they are. This isn't normal. And, anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much. Obviously you can ask me whatever questions you want about it. I'm an open book, but, eventually, though, lifting, I eventually got to the point where I did a men's physique competition in the NPC, if you've ever heard of that. It's so men's physique is, I jokingly refer to it as men's bikini. It's the guys in the board shorts. It's the kind of beach bod look is what you're going for. So I did one of those competitions in 2019. Heavily discouraged. I had family that found out just days before the show. I busted my ass for 16 weeks preparing for this, and family days before is trying to tell me not to, and I went ahead and did it anyway. But it just the whole struggle through that made me realize, just, I'm passionate about fitness. I absolutely have to have it in my life to have any quality of life. If I don't work out, man, just the enjoyment of everything else goes down. So anyway, about a year and a half ago, October will be 2 years. My wife and I decided to leave this group. And the difficult, people, you might think, why don't you just leave earlier? Like, why the heck would you stay? And the problem is you lose a lot when you leave. So, none of our families will have anything to do with us. She has a brother that left a few years before us that lives in Canada. So that's nice. She's got him. I've got a couple cousins. I've got a couple old friends, and actually, that one of my best friends that left when he was in his early 20s, he kind of helped facilitate us leaving because he offered me a job. So, that I don't have any college education. So there's, it's a little tougher to, find a job. And that's one of the things that keeps you there, as well as the fact that you're losing, the majority of the people and have in your life. You got to shut that off. So it was a tough decision to come to. But my wife and I finally decided we got to do this. It's non-negotiable. So October 2 years ago, coming up on 2 years ago, we just sent an email to the family, sold my house, and moved to Maryland because that's where the job was. So this is where it gets back to jiu-jitsu. So getting back on track. So then I realized, hey man, there's stuff opening back up to you. So jiu-jitsu was one of the things. It was like it was always in the back of my mind as something that I wanted to do. And so I looked up, just Google searched around, found Rising Tide, reached out and initially spoke to Stephen Miller there. He's a black belt that trains out of their, he teaches out of their Columbia location. Great guy. And he, I spoke to him about the program, and unfortunately at that time there was no classes that really worked with my work schedule. So I was like, oh man, just put a pin in it. Hopefully someday.
Right.
And then a few months go by and I got a promotion, and my work schedule changed. And, about a month into it, I had a light bulb go off. I'm like, oh, now that your schedule's different, maybe we can take another look at jiu-jitsu. So October of last year, went back into Rising Tide and signed up, and here we are. So that was my long circuitous route to to where I am now, man. But I'm absolutely loving it. It's like jiu-jitsu has replaced lifting as my passion. It's like lifting was my passion. It was, I could talk about it all day long. I loved helping write meal plans for people and stuff like that, writing workout splits. But jiu-jitsu, it gives me everything that I had with lifting. Plus, I can do it with my kids, which is, freaking awesome. I go with my 9-year-old daughter. She goes to Rising Tide as well. And, that's the highlight of my week. So that's how I'm here, man. So just loving it.
Yeah, man. That's crazy. I guess I've heard of like religious cults before, but never really like dove deep into it. And I've had a friend who was Amish and whatnot. He doesn't train anymore, but he used to train. He stopped at blue belt, but yeah, man, it's just crazy. Like,
I don't plan on doing that. I'm knocking on some wood right here, but I don't plan on doing that.
I wasn't gonna laugh until you laughed, but it's like,
I'm only a white belt, so I got no room to talk. But I've heard the stereotype. So
yeah, that everyone quits at blue belt. That's a whole other topic, man. I don't get, but my instructor, he kind of explained it to me like he's like, the simplest way to look at it as a lot of people that starts jiu-jitsu and that quits at blue belt never really had much of I guess you want to say like accomplishments in life. They feel like once they get to that next level, they accomplish something, so they usually just stop. So I'm like, well, that's one way to look at it, but Yeah,
That's an interesting perspective.
I couldn't look at it that way. I think it's with me when because when I started training, it's when it came to like work, my story was the same way. I would have to I'll find a job. I started doing martial arts, really fell in love with it, had to find a job, conflicting schedules every single time. I didn't think I didn't trained at like about 3 or 4 gyms, and each time I had to stop because of work conflicts. So when I found out about H2O, where I'm at now, there's like classes are Tuesdays and Thursdays, and this and that, and I think I did jujitsu for like maybe like 2 months before I started working again, and I was like, yeah, I cannot give these days up.
Yeah.
So since I've made that like standpoint, I've never had like a job. If I did work on a Tuesday and Thursday, I had to be off at a certain time, no exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the return on investment is there too. It's
Yeah.
It's when you are non-negotiable with something health and fitness related, I strongly believe it pays off in your productivity and all other areas. So, I've always said if I had to cut things out for time or money, I'm gonna get pretty low before I start cutting out things like health and fitness, because you need to stay on top of that.
Yeah, man. Like you said, it's that outlet, dude. Like no matter what, I can't give up jujitsu.
Yeah.
Like I cannot. I don't care if I'm hurt, tired, body beat up. Like I'm going to class.
That I was gonna say that even comes down to individual classes, man. Because like you have those days. I'll say all the time, you have those days when just I don't know if you're allowed to say this on your show, but my inner bitch comes out, man. It's like alarm goes off at 6 a.m. and you're feeling beat up and just, man, that bed feels so good and you need it. It's like you gotta just tell yourself you need this. It's not that this isn't something you're just doing because it's fun. It's you need this. So get your ass up and go.
Right. Because it's definitely. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you. I'm interested in hearing how you balance. Do you have a job outside of teaching? It seems like you do, and what is that, and how do you balance it? I'm interested. I'm just being kind of new to it. I'm interested in how people that teach. I mean, because frankly, long term for me, I would love to be involved with something like that. Even kids, it's. Mm-hmm. For me, my passion with fitness largely was when I could help someone else out, and if I could translate that down the road into jiu-jitsu, that would be awesome. So I'm interested to hear from you, kind of how you personally your work jiu-jitsu teaching balance looks like.
Well, no one ever asked that, but yeah, man. What's like I said, when I started training, like I said, it was a couple months before I had started my new job, and it was like I wasn't taking anything that cut into that time. So, because I started to see some of the benefits, like the mental health benefits of doing jujitsu. How I was just feeling like every single day after coming from class, and I was like, yeah, no, this is what I have to do now. So, like I said, when it comes to like teaching, I fell into teaching kind of like randomly because I never really saw myself as an instructor. So it was just, I would always be at kids class because I just loved the sport. So I was helping my instructor out, teach the kids class. So it was like, all right, he pulled me to the side one day. He was like, how do you feel like running kids class from here on out? I'm like, sure. Sure, whatever. So, we started teaching kids class, and honestly, I can say that's when the first time jiu-jitsu really opened up for me, because when you're talking kids, the attention the attention span is only about that big. So having to take one technique like an armbar and break it down to so many bits to make it stretch for like a 45-minute class. Because that's how he was like, he's like, don't overload them. Just give them a little warm up and give them a technique to rep the whole class. I'm like, okay, how in the hell do I stretch an armbar to 45 minutes? But that was the challenge that I had to come up with, because it was like, if this is what I want to do, I got to figure it out. So figuring out how to ways to break down techniques to make them extend the class made me see a lot more stuff when it comes to my own game. It's like, oh, I never thought about setting up an armbar this way or setting up a whatever this way. But yeah, just that's really my balance, man. It's like Tuesdays and Thursdays are off limits. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Like Tuesdays and Thursdays are forbidden days. Like, do not call and ask me to do anything on those days.
That's how I always was with, the gym, man. It was like, you want me to do what? You want me to do something else instead of go to the, no, I'm going to go to the gym first, and then we can talk about doing that other thing after. But that's set in concrete in my schedule. That's not moving. That's how I always was. But it's funny. It's funny you talk about kids classes though, man, because to me, teaching and the difference between a good and a great teacher is how they can articulate the topic.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to people like John Danaher or Gordon Ryan or whoever it is, and they all have their different way of articulating the issue at hand, right? The problem we're solving today is this, and the way they're able to break that down and communicate it, that makes a great teacher, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a quote, I can't remember who said it, but there's something like, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't understand it. I'm probably completely butchering that, but the point still stands that if you can't communicate that idea to a 5-year-old, do you really have a grasp of it in your own head? Mm-hmm. Because if you truly understood that thing, you should be able to communicate it to a 5-year-old. And that's it's funny watching the kids' classes, just all the mayhem that goes down.
So much chaos.
Yep.
So much chaos. But it's the funny thing about that. We talk about that a lot here on the show about like teaching kids and stuff, because I feel like that's a big pivotal part of jiu-jitsu is teaching kids versus teaching adults in some aspects. But I've seen on forums, I've seen on like Reddit, Instagram posts or whatever about people saying like their instructor approached them to teach kids class and they're like mad about it, or like, man, I don't want to teach kids, I want to And I'm like, dude, that should be an honor to be approached to teach a kids class, because your instructor sees that you have a good grasp of jiu-jitsu enough to be like, okay, you can shape and mold these kids to understand this, like I can. So I've been teaching kids class since blue belt. And then that rolled over to like, hey, you think you can handle adult class? And it's like, what? So now, I teach more regularly now. So.
And you enjoy the teaching aspect of jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, man, I love teaching jiu-jitsu. Love teaching jiu-jitsu.
That's awesome, man. It's like you're sharing something that means a lot to you. That's mm-hmm. how I always was with fitness. It's if I could help someone else understand a little bit about something, I'm always pumped to be involved in. That's cool. So
yeah, man,
I get it.
And it got to the point where, like I said, at first I was like, man, I don't see myself being an instructor or whatever. To like now, like I said, I'm running classes, running kids classes, and I'm trying to find more ways to express jiu-jitsu, like with this podcast, and still think like, okay, what more can I do? What more can I do to make sure jiu-jitsu is getting out there? Because yeah, I fell in love with it early, and it's stuck with me, and I can't shake it. Like my
How
whole
long?
life has
How
been
long have you been
jiu-jitsu.
doing it?
It's been 6 years. Yeah, it's been 6 years.
Nice, man. That's awesome. It's for me, there's part of me that's bummed that I'm 9 months in at 35, but there's a saying: the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the next best time is right now.
Do it
So
now. Yeah.
yeah, yep, you gotta start that clock ticking. And what you're
Yeah.
saying about getting kids into it, I think that's part of it as well. Is if you don't get kids in young and now, you're not going to have the people in 5 years that have been doing it for 5 years, right? You need to
Hmm.
have those people at all those different stages. So bringing in, getting adoption is definitely important. And I think the sport of jiu-jitsu has a ton of growth potential.
Yeah,
It's
man. For sure. For sure. Like I've we were talking about this a few nights ago with a couple of my training partners, and we were just talking about like how we look at jujitsu when we first started. You had like the instructional DVDs, you had all this stuff where you had to go like search on these great quests to find videos about jujitsu if you haven't recorded it from or got it from somebody else, to the point to like now you can type in jujitsu technique and 50 million pages come up about jujitsu.
yep. I mean, just the wealth of knowledge on YouTube alone.
Yeah, yeah. Like I can't scroll any social media without seeing some type of technique.
Yep.
If it's
And
TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, it's jujitsu everywhere.
for me, I got to not get distracted by the flashy stuff. It's
Oh,
like,
it's so
like
hard.
that looks so cool, and I'm watching this thing just 15, 20 times over, trying to figure out. So what happened? What did he do? But yeah,
Man, it's so
I need to stay in my lane.
man, jujitsu. I mean, YouTube University for jujitsu, man, is so dangerous. Because like you
Yeah.
see the stuff and you like, oh, I know I can do
I mean, there has been
that.
some stuff that I've seen that's definitely been beneficial. So I'm not knocking it either. But
Oh
it's
yeah.
funny, going back to what you're saying about the blue belt and quitting.
Hmm.
One thing, I mean, I'm super thankful that I did invest all those years lifting. There's there's a bunch of stuff I've taken away from it besides just having a bit of lean tissue on my body. Which obviously some size does help and strength with jujitsu, but there's also things like body mechanics and knowing how to position yourself to generate power. And obviously there's a ton of stuff specifically with jujitsu, and how to apply that power to another body is different than trying to just pick something heavy up or to
Hmm.
push something heavy away from you. But the principles still largely apply about the body mechanics and when you are or aren't going to be able to generate force. So that
Hmm.
those things help. But then also just the immersion into a sport and a pursuit that you can't buy or expedite results too much.
Yes.
They're long processes, and if you're going to become a black belt, you got to buckle in for a long ride.
A
And
long
the
ride.
same thing with trying to, if you want to try and compete in bodybuilding, or you want to change your physique in any meaningful way, it's a long ride. And so
Man.
that I'm really thankful for. There's a couple things. They're kind of cliche, but a couple things that lifting has given me. One being this took me so long to capture this for myself, but to enjoy the process. I'm a one stripe white belt, and man, getting that stripe, that felt amazing, right?
Yeah.
But I don't. I try to not. Obviously, you're always wanting to level up. That's if you're at all competitive, you're wanting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But through lifting, I learned to focus on what I can control. And yeah, I can control my technique. I can control what I research. I can control work, things like working on my cardio, my nutrition. There's a whole ton of things within your control. So for a long time lifting, I'd want to have put on more size or whatever that goal is. I was chasing that so intensely that I wasn't enjoying my workouts.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like, this is stupid. I'm not getting anywhere fast enough. But I was still, had that bit in my teeth. I'm still going for it, but I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And when I started to really see results was when I stepped back and I was like, you know what? I enjoy this lifestyle. I enjoy eating healthy. I enjoy going and, lifting heavy weights, and I enjoy the people I'm with at the gym that have a similar mindset. And like, I enjoy this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to wait till I accomplish some physique goal or weight goal or whatever that is to enjoy the process of being a healthy person, right? I'm doing that today.
Yeah.
I'm choosing the right food. I'm doing the workout. So when I started to enjoy that process, that was when I really started to make results. And I feel like the same thing somewhat applies to Jiu Jitsu, in that you can only focus on what you can control, and or you should only focus on what you control, in my opinion. And the results, the improvement will come from that. So for me, I'm just trying to enjoy being the guy that's getting smashed. So there's days when enjoying that is tough, but it's enjoy these early days of being a white belt. I plan to be looking back on this in a few years and thinking how funny it is that I was that guy. So heck, I'm here now. I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, man. I couldn't agree more. And it took me doing jujitsu to like really learn, like you said, you only can focus on what you can control. Learning, patience, and learning to, trust the process. Because, we always say, like, some days you go into the gym, you're the hammer, some days you're the nail. And some days it feels like you're the nail a lot.
Yes.
So because I can openly admit, man, I've had some shitty days in the gym. Even if I'm going to like, going training or going to like Planet Fitness, man, there's been days where it's just like I'll go in and I don't feel like I can do nothing.
Yep.
And then some days I feel like I can move the whole goddamn world. So but yeah, just just thinking about that, like how I walked into this gym not knowing, well, I knew of jujitsu, but I never knew what jujitsu was. To like, okay, let's figure this. Let's see how long we can, ride this out. I was giving myself a couple months. Like I was like, yeah, I'll see that
I'll dabble.
3-4 months at a time. Yeah, I'll dabble in and see what happens, So then it was just like I started training more. It went from I'll go when I'll go to like, okay, let's see if I can be consistent let's see if I can be consistent for a week. Then it turned to 2 weeks. Then it turned to 4 weeks. And then, time goes on. I get my first stripe and it's like, oh, okay. So like,
that felt good.
Fast. Yeah, that felt nice. I was like, oh, that felt nice. And then, down the line, the second one came and I ended up, that's like not long after I got my second stripe, I saw my instructor get his black belt. So that really was just like, oh yeah, I'm in this for a long haul.
Yeah, it's funny, man. It's like I follow the Brazilian guy I talked about earlier, Alexander Quintela. I follow him on Instagram, and the other day he posted. I noticed there's a guy there that he might have been a blue belt at the time when I was training back there. I'm like, oh hey, there he's still training. He's a black belt now, and it's like it's cool to see the fruition of someone that's gone from to see the whole process. That's pretty cool. But yeah, it's been really, honestly, like life-changing, like I was saying earlier. It kind of, when I got back into it in October last year, the timing was just right. It's kind of been like a catalyst for a lifestyle change that I needed it. And honestly, like at that time I was looking for it. So it just, it worked. So, it was like I was finally in the driver's seat in my life, but, it might sound corny, but man, I want to look in the mirror every morning and I want to respect what I see, like I want to be able to look at myself and know that I'm handling my business. I'm a good example for my kids. I'm able to provide. I'm able to, defend myself and my family. Again, sounds corny, but you look at guys like Jocko or Cam Haynes or any of these guys, and it's like that's the kind of man that I respect, and I'd like to have that same level of respect for myself, and if I'm going to get there, I'm going to have to work.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my mindset when I was like, hey, we can do jiu-jitsu now. I just wanted to level up kind of in all areas of my life. So yeah, I started doing jiu-jitsu, and a month into it, man, I was like, I'm trying to get up for class in the morning, and I was drinking bourbon last night. I was drinking a lot of bourbon, and I go to class and I'm like, man, I'm dying here. Like I can't do this. So yeah, a month into jiu-jitsu, I quit drinking 100%. And that's coming from someone that drank a lot. It's funny, going back to the group I was in, that was the only vice we were allowed to have. It's a weird one. You even start drinking from about, 16, 17 years old with full knowledge of your parents. It's, and you're drinking hard alcohol. So
Wow.
I've drank a lot for a long time. And 1 month of jiu-jitsu said, nope, you're done. So
it really shows you who you really are.
it showed me I wasn't half of what I thought I was. And so yeah, a month in, it forced me to quit drinking. But when I say forced me, I also, like I said, I was trying to level up. I know I'm not doing the stuff I'm supposed to. I know I'm not making the progress in my life that I should be, that I want to be. So I'm trying to fine tune and get better, man. So yeah, I quit drinking, and since starting jiu-jitsu and stopping drinking, I dropped 35 pounds, like without even trying, man. Yeah. So, I tracked macros for years. I can eyeball 32 grams of peanut butter pretty spot on. But, I haven't been tracking food. So it's been just such a positive impact, man, across the board.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like I'm kind of raving about it here, but it really has been like the best thing that I've encountered in my life in a long time. So I'm giving it its due.
Man. I mean, you kind of have to, man, because it's jiu-jitsu. Like I said, it shows a side of you that you kind of had an idea that was there, but you didn't know how like prevalent it was. Like for example, like with me, I've always loved jiu-jitsu. I've always, I took training serious, but then it's like, okay, I'm a brown belt now. I'm slowly creeping up to black belt, and I'm talking about like, oh, I want to compete now, and just looking at the people that I've talked to, the people that I've seen and watched, and the level of the level that they go to train hard for their competitions. And a part of me was like, okay, if I'm not taking it that serious, then I shouldn't be doing it. So I had to change a lot of stuff about myself. Like, when I'm training, I push myself. Like, I try to make sure I'm staying in the gym. I'm staying on the mats, making sure I'm learning everything I can. Always trying to find ways to better myself, because like I know I can do it, especially now, because I went from like 240 and I'm back down to like 220 three now, I think, some teetering in there, but I feel a whole lot better, because of it. And like you said, you started to look at yourself and was like, okay, I like that. I'm starting to like that guy right there.
Yeah,
And
man.
then, like,
It feels
you
good.
start pushing yourself even harder. Like, okay, let's see if I can make that even better. So
Yeah, it's man, it's about momentum. Once you get started, it's so much easier to keep something like that going. But getting it started, it's like it's like a flywheel. The flywheel effect. It takes so much effort to start an exercise program or start jujitsu. It's such an intimidating hurdle that it takes so much effort to start. But once you start, as long as you just keep it going, that momentum can take you a long way.
yeah, it gets to the point where it nags you if you don't go.
Dude, that's so true. That's so true, man. My brain will be the first thing to speak of and let me know I haven't. It's been too long since I worked out, man. It's like therapy, and it's funny. Jiu-jitsu, you're not going to be distracted. There was plenty of days I went to the gym to lift, and my head is in a completely different spot.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen when someone's trying to strangle you.
No.
Yeah. Your mind might wander for a split second in a safe spot, but it's only going over to the other side of the room. It's not going farther.
It's not going too far.
No, you're stuck until that round's over.
That's like yesterday. Me and one of our training partners, he's also a brown belt, and we were rolling, and he ended up in turtle. I was in top, and like you said, for that split second, I took my mind off of what I was doing, and when I blinked, we rolled, and I somehow ended up in 50-50. Now with him, he can find a leg lock from anywhere. It amazes me that he can find a leg lock from anywhere. And as soon as we landed in 50-50, we looked at each other, and I'm just in my mind like, oh shit. So we're like scrambling to fight to get the leg lock. But yeah, man, it's just crazy how as soon as you instantly take your mind off something, you just end up in a bad spot in a heartbeat.
Yeah. But man, it's mentally though, it's one of those few things that I have in my week that demands your absolute attention, right? It's like if I looked at anything I was doing at any other point through the week, there's the opportunity for your mind to wander, for you to be thinking about what's stressing you out or what's pissing you off, or the next thing you got to do, or whatever it is, man. But
yeah.
When you for that hour when you're on the mats or whatever, you're doing, you're rolling or whatever, your mind is at the task. It's on the task at hand. It's not. So those periods of my week are the only time I have that. I don't know if it's like that for you, but jiu-jitsu is the only thing I have that's all you're thinking about right then.
Man, I swear I have the most loving, abusive relationship with this sport. Because it's like no matter what, man, it's like I'll have those days like, dude, I do not feel like going to class. I'm so tired. I'm so beat up. I'm mentally not there. And then I show up and I'm getting dressed, still complaining on the mats, and then it's like, oh nope, time to go. I'm here now. So
and I bet you've never had a day when you almost didn't go, but you went, and then you regretted it. I bet you've never had one of those.
Never. Never.
I always, that was another thing I would tell myself back when I lifted was, I mean, I still lift, I should say that, but just not like the frequency I used to. But I would always tell myself, just try. I'd make a deal with myself, go to the gym, show up. If you get there and you're not feeling it, I'll let you go home. And you don't. You go there, and now that I'm there, I'm going to do it. So, I try and carry that over to jiu-jitsu, man. Just shut up. Don't think about it. Get in the car, go to class. Doesn't matter that you're sore. Promise you that when you leave, you're going to be glad you went.
Just go just to see.
Just go. You're going to be glad you went. So, yeah, man. And it's like, even to see the people there, like it's one thing I like about it is similar to gym culture. It's all people that are, it's very diverse. It's, you have people from all walks of life and socioeconomic statuses and what have you, but it's all people there that are courageous enough to do something that's tough, and they're generally pretty driven people. They're not scared of some hard work. So I think that's pretty cool. And, you always have good conversation and meet some new friends and whatnot at the, you go to the gym. So go to class, man.
Yeah, just get up and go. No matter what you feel like, just get up and go. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to hate yourself if you don't go.
Yeah, and I try and encourage people to try it too. Maybe it's not for you, but check it out. Maybe it'll change your life.
It definitely changed mine.
Yeah, man. It seems like most people that do jiu-jitsu, they have a similar kind of outlook on it. That this is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So
it's like it's always one of those like, man, this is probably one of the best decisions I've made. I can say that I've made in my life that was like not bad.
Yeah. It's got a lot of net benefits, man. So
oh yeah.
And yeah, like I was saying earlier, I'd love to at some point be involved in it in some way. Again, it's always been rewarding to me to help people improve themselves, especially in a physical, in their health, because that it's something that means a lot to me, because I was that person. I was that fat kid that hated it, didn't know what to do about it. So, there's been some people that I've worked with in the past to help them, lose weight or whatever. And it's always been super rewarding. So I'd love to get involved with helping the jiu-jitsu community at some point in my life. But I'm a white belt, so we'll put a pin in that for now and stay in our lane till it's time to pitch in.
Hey man, you never know, man. You never know, man. You might meet someone as a white belt and change their lives, dude. You don't need to be higher in the ranks to do that. Trust me.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm being a little facetious, but yeah, just I would love to, I plan on this being a long-term thing in my life. Honestly, I don't see myself stopping. It gives me everything that I wanted from lifting. Plus, I feel like it's something that I'm going to be able to do with longevity a lot more than lifting. I can do it with my kids, so that the time use isn't selfish quite in the same way as you may look at it with just you going to the gym by yourself, and even just, man, knowing how to defend yourself. It's a crazy world out there, and it's better to it's like a fire extinguisher, man. It's better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. Because when if violence comes up on you, it's not going to give you warning, and you can't then go train for 5 years. Time out. Right. Time out. I haven't trained for this.
Right.
It's too late at that point. So, the benefits with being able to handle yourself as well, I think are huge with this.
Oh yeah, man. I can't. I mean, we can talk for another 2-3 hours about like all the benefits that jiu-jitsu have had in just this little short amount of span, man. Because, just truth be told, I've talked about this before, man. Jiu-Jitsu have not only saved my life, it saved my marriage. My wife trains now. Well, she trains more consistent now. My daughter, she trains, and when my youngest gets old enough, she'll start training.
How old's your youngest?
She's 3.
I got a 4-year-old, and I'd like to. She's crazy, man. I'd like to start her soon, and I'm kind of working on my wife a little bit. She's expressed interest. She's a little hesitant. Haven't totally rooted out why, but I think I just need to get her in some trial classes and have her experience it.
And that's funny. That's how, like, my wife kind of how she kind of got into it. Like, I would go, and there would be some days I'll ask, like, you want to tag along, and she's like, yeah, sure. Never had no interest in learning jiu-jitsu. So one day we were working something, and my instructor was walking around showing everybody the technique, and he walked over to her. It was like, come on, you can try it. So she's like, oh, no. He said, no, come on, try it. So she tried the technique, and next thing you know, boom, we found her a gi. So she just did that little nudge.
Honestly, it's kind of funny to admit, but one of the hardest things for me in this is a lot easier to deal with at 35 than even it was at 21. But one of the hardest things for me is being a beginner at something. You get into your 30s, and it's been a while since you were a beginner at something, right? So to re-experience that feeling of I'm completely lost, it does something to you.
It does.
So it's cool, man. I feel like it kind of it rewires your brain to a certain degree. You're forcing new pathways in your brain, and there's something about that just it's got such mental benefits.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like I said, we could talk about that for hours, but yeah. So Joe, we have a staple here at Talk Your Jits podcast, man. We ask everybody who comes on the show, your top 3 people, man. Who would you love to get a chance to roll with?
Love to get a chance to roll with. Man, that's a great question. I don't have any. I wish I had some locked and loaded here. I mean, obviously, Gordon Ryan would be. It'd be fascinating to just see what that feels like, man. Just the goat. See how that cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
And this is probably a white belt answer, but I'd love to roll with John Danaher. I really enjoy his. Again, going back to it, the articulation style he has. He puts out these principles and concepts that kind of explain the architecture behind something, and behind how this problem is getting solved. And for some reason, I enjoy that. So I would like to roll with John and have him break some stuff down. And then I think finally I'd like to roll with Nicky Ryan.
Yeah.
He looks interesting, and his IQ is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, man. I was just about to say that his IQ on the mats is crazy, dude. Like, those are the type of people. Like, I like Gordon Ryan, Danaher, Nikki. I love those guys. I love their concept and philosophy with jiu-jitsu. Like, I would love to roll with them, but I just would like to just sit down and have like a good conversation with them about jiu-jitsu.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I would pay to do that.
You would you'd learn a ton in a short period.
Yeah, because I know that just from how they handle the situation, handle their training, their team dynamic, their gym lifestyle, everything, dude. Just it's it's so amazing because you train with these guys every single day. You learning from these guys, and you just develop this system that everyone in the gym can hit. So it's cool, man. It's very cool. But yeah, Joe. So if you got any other questions for me, man, by all means, fire away. If not, man, I would love for you to shout out your school. If you got anything coming up that you would like to let the world know, man, the floor is all yours.
All right. Well, I don't really have anything coming up except for, just going to class. But yeah, man, Rising Tide. I had to represent with the shirt today. If you're ever near,
I like that shirt.
We're in the Baltimore, Maryland area, so if you're ever in that neck of the woods, I think it's always good to have some fresh meat come through and see some new faces. So check it out. And yeah, I did have a question for you. So, like, if you had to go back to Lamar in his first few months of doing jiu-jitsu, what would you tell him? Top 3, do or don't do?
Ooh, 3 months in.
Just early on. What would you go back, and what advice would you go back and give to yourself early on? I'm just looking for tips here, man.
I mean, no, that's a good question because I know one thing I would tell myself to do is actually start competing earlier. Compete early and compete often. Don't be afraid to take on bigger challenges, because one thing about me was when it came to like jiu-jitsu, I was always timid about the bigger guys. Even though I was a big guy, I was still kind of hesitant to roll with, like, really roll with like some of the bigger guys in the class. And it was like, I wish I would have like had that mindset that I have now about it. But it's like it says, you're early on in your career, so you really wouldn't be thinking like that. Man, honestly, that's really just it, man. Just really just go and just go for it. Like, obviously they'll be doing this for a long time, but just go, man. Just soak up everything you can. Don't take nothing that you're learning for granted. Which I never did, but I'm just saying, like, don't take nothing that you learn for granted, and just learn as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, man.
And
it's
then forget about it halfway through.
Yeah, man. It's like, honestly, I'm a little obsessed with it now. It's I'm having a blast and filling a lot of my spare time with watching videos and I'm having a ton of fun.
Yeah, man. It consumes you, man. It consumes you in ways that you never would have thought. Never would have thought. Like, when I first started jiu-jitsu, I was like, yeah, this is cool, whatever. To like now, something on me is going to represent jiu-jitsu. Never fails. Something on my person is going to represent jiu-jitsu in one shape or form or another. So
I'm not quite there yet, but yeah, man, it's a cool thing to be part of.
Yeah, man. But I do appreciate you coming on, man, telling your amazing story. And I will definitely be keeping in contact with you, man. I would love to hear how everything going with you. And once you get your wife into training, you guys can come back and talk about it.
Yeah, me and my 9-year-old, we shook hands the other night that we were going to become black belts together. So might as well get the rest of the family involved, since this is going to be a long time
might as
thing.
well, man. Yeah, might as well.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. And that's the end of today's episode. I would love to thank Joe one more time for coming on the show and bless us with his jiu-jitsu knowledge. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please go and follow our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to stay updated on all future episodes. This has been Talk Your Jits Podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live jiu-jitsu. Have a great day.